This is Scott Welch, Muscle Insider Magazine. We're here live with Bhuwan Chauhan. Is that exactly how you pronounce it?
It's Bhuwan. Bhuwan. So like
Bhuwan?
move on, but Bhuwan.
Bhuwan, and how do you say the last name?
Chauhan.
Chauhan.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Bhuwan Chauhan?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Okay, let's go again. Scott Welch, Muscle Insider Magazine. We're here live with Bhuwan Chauhan, IFBB pro from Canada, originally from India, post-Olympia. How was your Olympia experience?
It was really good. It was my second time at the Olympia this year, so it was not as hard the second time because the first time I had to do 6 shows to get there and qualify, and by the time I reached the Olympia, I was already drained physically, mentally, and everything. So it wasn't really more so as a competitive experience, more so as I've made it to the Olympia. This time around, the whole plan was to make a statement, to go in there and looking your best. I only had to do 1 show. I won that. I had a lot of time. I was fresh. I was looking my best. And I feel like of all the shows I've done since 2016, this was my best package to date in terms of muscle and in terms of conditioning and everything. So it was a really good experience.
Now, you had quite a story. Now, you originally are from India, and then you came on a scholarship for, I think, as a petroleum engineering.
Yeah, that's right.
In Alberta.
Yeah.
And then in 2016, you did, I think this is Southern Alberta Championships. Same year, you did the Alberta Provincial Championships, won first overall in both.
Yes.
Then the year after, you went to 2 pro qualifiers, the second one of which you won, which was the Ben Weider.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So then from there, I mean, which part of Alberta are you from? Is it Edmonton or Calgary or?
So I went to Edmonton for my undergrad, University of Alberta, and then I moved to Calgary in 2015 for work. So I was working as a petroleum engineer here in Calgary, and since then I've been living here.
Now, you are the only men's physique IFBB pro from India. Is that not correct?
I'm not the only one, but I'm definitely the first IFBB pro in men's physique, as well as the pro as the Olympian going into Olympia, and then the first guy to win a pro show as well. So.
Incredible. Yeah, you won, it was the Vancouver Pro 2019.
Yes, yes.
That's right. And then Border States this year is how you qualified for the Olympia the second time.
That's right. Yeah.
Amazing. That's awesome. I was really impressed with how many shows you've competed in. I mean, like, especially last year, I have your contest history down, and I was like, wow, you know, I didn't know how big of a following you had, eh? And secondly, obviously, a lot of people didn't know that you were the one representing Canada as the only Canadian in the men's physique class at the Olympia this year.
This year, yes, for sure. I was the only guy living in Canada going to Olympia. Last year, also, there was only 3 of us going into Olympia in men's physique. And yeah, as you said, it's been I've been competing non-stop since I started competing. Like the minimum shows I do every year is at least 2 since the first year as an amateur. So yeah.
Now, how did COVID-19 obviously affect you here in Canada? Because we obviously see all the gym shutdowns, harder to get to find the supplement stores that are out there, and just the industry as a whole. With less shows comes less spirit. How did you sort of navigate through COVID-19 and its effect on your Olympia prep?
So I started prepping this year back in March, and my target show was Toronto Pro. And I started preparing for it end of March. Everything got shut down. The shows got moved. We still didn't know about if the shows are going to happen, but I kept prepping. I was able to find a home gym. I was able to work out there, and then one after the other shows kept getting canceled. And I thought I'll do the Vancouver Pro. Then that got canceled later, and then I had some US shows, and then those got canceled. And then the whole travel between US and Canada was also affected for a while. So it was really hard because we had to keep prepping without knowing if the shows are even going to happen. So I was in a low body fat and prepping since like May, I would say, just ready. So I was like trying to keep myself 3 to 4 weeks out. And as soon as the shows were announced, I would just go do them. And once the show started happening, I still wasn't sure if I can do those. So I picked up a show that I knew that's 100% going to happen and gave myself that much time. And luckily it did happen, and we were able to make it too. And then the Olympia happened. So yeah, it's been a rough year. It's just been a rough year of long prep again.
Now, how did you find it as an experience from an athlete last year competing at the Olympia in Las Vegas, and then this year obviously being Orlando in a show that was almost virtual 100%? I mean, there was an audience, I think, of 2,500 people roughly that were there. I mean, you hear different numbers on it. But in terms of the athlete experience, how did you find that versus Vegas?
So Vegas was obviously definitely much bigger, better for the reasons that it has an expo. There's way more crowd, and but I feel like Orlando was a better location. And I talked to a lot of other athletes as well, and they were kind of on the board as well that Orlando was better because Expo Center was right next to the host hotel. There was not much traveling. You're just more calm in Orlando because it's not it's like you don't have to travel as much. There's not much crowd. Versus in Vegas, the New Orleans is so far away from the host hotels and stuff that you have to take a car, go back and forth a lot, and even going to the gyms, the traffic there and everything. Orlando is just so much quieter and nicer that you can go to the gyms and work out and everything, and you don't really feel that it's too much on you. And just everybody living in the same host hotel was really good as well. So I really liked Orlando. I've only been there once in Vegas, but I would pick Orlando. If they could just do Orlando again, I would be all down for it, just for those reasons. But they still put up a great show. I think it was the best show, like the best production that they put with the amount of the great stage lights, the venue. It was just so well organized.
Now, you have a massive fan following, obviously, in Canada and in India. Did you find that the live stream, a lot of your followers were tuning in because now, with the live stream being globally accessible, that you're now having a larger reach digitally from all over the world?
Oh, for sure. I feel like that's one of the things that was required in our sport to make it live, and so that more people are able to see it. Not everybody can come from every part of the world. And bodybuilding and the whole fitness industry is getting so popular in Asia in general that they can't really come down here to fly down here for a show. So it's so much better for them to just see it live, get inspired from it. And I feel that's exactly what happened. And then me being the only Indian at the stage, I really feel like that grabbed, as you said, it was a lot of people watching it live for that one reason, because it inspires and motivates, especially the athletes, the people like youngsters who want to make it to the top. They're like, okay, there's somebody that we can relate to. It just hits different when you can relate to somebody who's going to the stage. So yeah, it was really nice that they did that. And I feel like it'll be really good if we keep doing this every year and have it accessible.
Now, what is your background in terms of your athletic background? Because obviously deciding to compete in 2016 and then winning an overall is obviously not everybody's first show that they do. Did you have an athletic background growing up?
Yeah, so I was always very actively involved in sports. I was a very hyperactive child. So just going to the school was not enough for me. I was involved in multiple sports, multiple activities, dancing and all that stuff. You can kind of see that in my posing. I like to incorporate that as well. So just a lot of activities growing up. And then when I came here, it was a huge shock because the engineering course load was so much that I couldn't really partake in any activities. Our labs used to run until 8 p.m. and all the sports practices. Like I wanted to join rugby, I wanted to join rowing and all these sports, but their practices were between 5 and 7 p.m. And I used to have labs during that time. So I was like, what do I do? And then my dormitory gym, actually, where I was living, was a 24-hour gym. It was a small gym, like a home gym, but it was 24 hours. So that's how it all began. Like I was able to go there at 10, maybe 11 p.m., late at night by myself, watching YouTube videos while I do the exercises. And then that's how I learned. And then slowly and slowly, I had the confidence after a whole year to go to an actual gym. So my first year, I just spent it in that gym because I was so conscious that I'm doing everything wrong. And I don't know how, I was pretty skinny too. Like I was athletic, but skinny. So I just wasn't confident enough to go to a big gym. And then once I had that, then I learned more and more. There's so much information available online. If you really put your heart into it and you really want to learn, trial and error, time, experience, you'll learn it all. So year by year, that happened. And I decided to compete because I just needed a challenge. I just loved that lifestyle so much. And financially, I was in a position to afford it. Most people don't realize that competing is pretty expensive. And I didn't want to, I was already working part-time to make ends meet from the diet aspect, that I don't want to spend extra money just to compete. So I waited that I had a job, a stable career, that now I have a very organized time and I can compete. And then it just started. And yeah, just one show after the other, I did really well, and I felt like I belonged here, and I started making more goals. I didn't even know what Olympia was when I first started lifting for the first 4 or 5 years.
Sure, yeah.
Even after I told, to turn pro, like the only reason I decided was after I won the first 2 shows. I didn't even know that I'm going to be turned pro. It was just that, hey, I want to compete. I just want to see where I stand. That's it. So the judges actually told me to do the provincials that year. I didn't want to do it. I just wanted to do one show. So they told me that you should do it. I'm like, okay, I'll do it for 2 more weeks. And then they told me that you have what it takes to be a pro. I'm like, okay, really? Like, really, do I have it? Like, yes. I'm like, okay, now I'm going to make a goal. So then the whole goal making started that, yes, I will be a pro next year. And then I want to be an Olympian the year after. And yeah, here I am.
I'm really impressed that you got your education well, hitting the gym, hitting it hard, because a lot of people, they just live in the gym and they forget about the education. And you see this in a lot in professional sports where they play, you know, different sports and they just expect the scholarship to kind of come and take care of everything, or they're just going to get paid to train. We all grow up seeing those Arnold videos where they're just paid to work out on Venice Beach and Muscle Beach and things
I feel
like
it's even more common now with the social media, because everybody sees a certain image of influencers and they think that that 0.1% of people is what the true industry is like. And I always like to tell everybody that follows me, and even I post that a lot, that hey, you need to have a proper stable career first. Priorities. Not everybody makes a living in this industry through doing this. Most of the pros, even Olympians that I'm friends with, they all have a proper job alongside. So you really need to have a good career in order to have a good career in the industry too, because it's not cheap. Diet, competing, everything. So you really need to have that base. And most people, as you said, they just go by the videos and what they see. And they don't really know that just because a person is not posting about their professional life, they're probably an engineer or something else, or probably doing a really high demanding job. You just don't know yet.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. We just interviewed Andrea Shaw, and she's working in training and fitness within the medical community, and has lost her job before some of the contests she did this year, and turned her energy obviously onto the Olympia and ended up winning, which was just great. But that's one of the things that when I saw your engineering background, and I was like, okay, he's got obviously the academics. And then now you have obviously a brand building. Take me through a bit about the brand building that you do. How much time do you put into social media and getting your brand out there versus, you know, spending time in the gym? Because a lot of people that aren't keen with that, they think if they just work out, then everything will take care of itself. But you sort of balance both.
So it's been a steep curve and climb for me. I wasn't really active on social media until at least end of 2017, even 2018, to be really honest. And because I was so busy with my whole engineering, it was a very demanding field, and I just wasn't born in, like, I wasn't exposed to the whole social media aspect of it. And it took me a lot of learning by myself to like really see what the benefits of it. And then when I was like, okay, this is my passion, I want to make it my profession, that's when I started seeing and observing more on how these other guys were doing in this field, and how I can make it my career out of social media. So I started planning about it. The first thing obviously was for me to turn pro. I was like, if I'm not a pro, I'm not the kind of guy who can just make a few viral videos or pictures and just get 1 million of followers. I just don't, I'm not like that. Yeah. I'm more about the academic side of things. So that's not going to be me. But what I do have is that I do have the ability to achieve my goals. So if I'm able to achieve goals one by one, get to the pro level, get to the Olympia, people who can relate to me will follow me just for who I am. And that's exactly what I focus on, and that's exactly how it happened. 2018 is when I really started. That's when I quit my job as well. I was coaching on the side a bit, and that was out for me turning pro. He was in the industry of competing, as well as about 8 years of training and dieting and knowing all of that. And then I started promoting my coaching services. I started creating a lot of content. And it was mainly about the fitness content in the beginning, and then I started YouTube as well. And it was realistically, it was really last year that I started getting engagement in my social media, because I did so many shows that people can really relate. And it's not easy to be doing so many shows back to back and being consistent at it. So while I was doing all these shows, I made sure to create content. I had a videographer, I had a photographer to show my entire journey. I documented my entire journey last year to the Vancouver Pro, made it on YouTube. Even the Olympia, I had my own friend, videographer, fly into LA while I was training there. That was all these. So that's the financial aspect of it. I invested, but I waited to invest. I could have invested that much money in 2013 and probably not got anywhere. Yeah. So the timing of it is very crucial, but then you also have to realize that this is just like any other business. I like to treat it as a business. You got to put in to get out of it. And even now that I've been doing the same thing, but now luckily I have sponsors now. I have other guys to pay for all that stuff. So I've been very consistent at it. I do spend a very big chunk amount of time to on the social media, my posts, my the content I make on YouTube and everything, and it's only gonna get more and more busy. So now I have like YouTube handlers like who will like edit the videos for me instead of just me doing the work myself. So now I'm going more about having a team. I'm also looking forward to like creating an app, a coaching app. So it's not much on my end, but I have a whole team now to do all of this, because as it grows, you only have limited time. So
that's right. You know, we were just talking on this earlier today with Brandon Hendrickson about the need to surround yourself with the right team in terms of coaches and different members of the business community like you've reached out to help you kind of grow that. And I see a lot of this in professional sports where the athletes will have, you know, strength and conditioning coaches, and then they may have, you know, different coaches for nutrition, and then coaches for flexibility. And it's great that you're smart enough to realize you don't have to be the best at every single thing. Whereas a lot of athletes, I find in this individual sport, they feel they have to be the best in nutrition, the best in training, the best in supplementation, and the best in coaching. And they're unwilling.
I see it as like you need. It's just you can never learn enough, and you should always be open to learning. And yeah, I may be good at the whole social media. I may be good at editing. I may be good, but there are people far better than me. Sure. I don't need to be the best in that. I need to be best in what I'm doing as an athlete, and which is to grab all the information, make sure everything is running nice and smooth, and I have a balance of everything around me. And I'm glad you brought that up about the whole the team behind behind an athlete. That's what I'm focusing on. I have a big team of chiropractors working with me, and like all the coaches. And one thing that I really find, I don't know if you're going to be able to relate, because in Calgary, the whole industry is so small here about the fitness that at this level, that really is one of, I guess, that's why I spend so much time in US, and I spend so much time in talking to other athletes from all over the world, because here I don't really get that exposure. Yeah. So one of the major goals for me in 2021 is actually to move out of Calgary, and the two cities that I'm looking for is in Toronto and Vancouver, just for my career, because now that this is my full-time career, as you said, you got to surround yourself with people who are like you, who you can learn from, and who can learn from you.
Yeah, no, you know what, when we were doing our predictions and we saw your name come up, we're like, you know, let's focus more on the Canadians. And so in 2021, that's going to be our focus, is really celebrating it. And in the past, we've sort of said, hey, let's be like Flex, or let's be like Muscular Development. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is just as Canadians, and you can relate to this, is that the Canadian IFBB Pro, you're always seen as just a second or third tier athlete that's 100%. Down there. And the athletes in Canada, the journalists in the US, they don't know who they are. No. You know, and they don't know the storylines, and they don't know, okay, well, this person is, you know, Ian Valliere is the brother-in-law of Chris Bumstead, and Chris Bumstead's sister is Melissa Bumstead, and all three of them are in the Olympia, the first time a brother and sister stood on stage at the Olympia. And the US journalists are just in awe at these storylines. And I think that what we've really found is by celebrating the Canadian aspect, and not going out and getting the maple syrup and the beaver tails and all this sort of stupid Canadian stuff, but rather just saying, let's go to the Olympia as the eyes and ears of Canada, and let's focus on this. And then leading up to the Olympia, let's interview people like yourself and say, hey, what are you hearing here in Canada, and what are your plans for building up your brand? And I think you've just done a great job of building your brand up. I think you're placing you were 16th last year at the Olympia, moving up one placing, but 16th, a lot of people don't know, is tied for last, because everybody gets you don't rank. Actually place in the 15th, meaning there was only 14 other bodies ahead of you, which is a huge improvement from where you were last year. What did you do differently in working on your physique from last year to this year? What was your goal, and how did it turn out?
So the first thing, as I said, the biggest thing was I was very, very drained last year by the time I reached Olympia. So it definitely wasn't my best. I was pushing my body to the absolute limits, even while training. I had injuries. Like I had my injury last year, and even this year I had to deal with my injury. So that was the biggest difference, I feel, physically. And apart from that, I did gain about 4 pounds of muscle compared to last year to this year. So that was again, and then muscle maturity is also, I'm 26. So I'm getting up there now where the muscle maturity is kicking in, even though I've been training for 10 years now. The real difference that I'm seeing is in the last 2 years is when I've really gained that muscle maturity, especially in this last 1 year. And that's it. Like, I feel like for the next year, that's exactly what I'm going to be focusing on as well. More muscle maturity, more size, and just keep jumping up the ladder, like just like that.
And that's just it. That's my next question is 2021. What can fans expect from you?
So my biggest goal right now is I do want to do my Vancouver Pro, because as the current champ from 2019, I kind of feel like that's my show. And I also made my pro debut there where I placed fifth in my first show. So that's kind of like my show, and I want to do that. But at the same time, my mentality is that I don't just want to say I'm 15 this year and I come 12th next year and then 10th next year. That's one approach. Another approach is I was 15 this year and I'm 8th next year. What would it take me to get that big of a jump? Well, I need that size for my men's physique. That's all I need. So currently I'm just working on slowly going to start working my off season, gain more muscle, and then decide on a show when I'm ready, when I know that I have the exact muscle that I need. Now that may be before the Van Pro, and I may decide to just do that, or I may just decide to take a little bit of more time to grow and then come into a show which I know that judges are going to be like, what the fuck? That's the kind of effect I want. Like, what the fuck? Because the feedback I got was, I have the structure, I have the shape, and I'm definitely up in those top 3, top 5 very soon, as soon as I gain that size. The only thing that's lacking is the muscle maturity and the size. And that comes with time. So I want to give it a little bit more time. As I said, and as you've seen, that I've been competing non-stop since 2016, doing 2 to 3 shows a year. So I have really limited my growth, muscular growth, because every year I only get 4 to 5 months. And that's not enough time to put on some good size. And despite that, I've been able to consistently put on 4 pounds of muscle every year. So I feel like if I give myself double that time, instead of 4, if I give it 8 months and then do a prep, I can easily gain that 7 to 8 pounds of muscle, which is what the judges told me. And that's my goal right now.
Now, earlier today, Brandon Hendrickson said that the men's physique category now is looking for an overall body development, because the legs have obviously been the thing that the bodybuilding side of the sport has sort of pushed it, saying, oh, the guys in the board shots, they don't train their legs. But people like him and Jeremy Bundia have kind of ushered in this new breed of, hey, let's have the legs under the shorts, let's have the calves. What is your feeling on that versus the old men's physique look, which was more upper body and less focus on balance overall?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I definitely have one of the biggest legs in the men's physique division. I don't feel cocky saying that, because I train legs very, very hard, and it's just one of those body parts that I love training. And I'm glad that they're moving into that, because for the longest amount of time, men's physique guys have ignored, like even the amateurs coming up, they would just ignore their leg days. Or I coach a lot of my clients, and I can see them like just taking it as like a rest day. They don't want to push. But I feel it's very critical that you have a very symmetrical overall physique. Even if your board shots are covering it, you can clearly see on the stage who trains legs and who doesn't, because those board shots, you don't want to have baggy board shots. And that's one of the biggest things I've seen, that when you see them on stage, just make sure your legs are not baggy in those board shots. Because and the other aspect of it is, if you really, really pay good attention to it, it gives you a lot more of a V taper if your legs are big. That's one of my biggest things. Like, I have a really good V taper, but if you really think about it, if your legs are big, you're going to be appearing wider up top, because it just goes like an X. If you're wide up at the bottom, you're going to be wide up top. But if you're going to be straight here, then it's just not going to flow the same. So posing and doing all of that definitely affects it. And yeah, I'm just glad that Brandon is the champ, because he trains legs hard. I've seen him train. I'm friends with him. And there's a few other guys in men's physique that I know really who trains leg, but I feel everybody should have a symmetrical physique.
Awesome. Listen, tell the fans how they can, reach you. What's your YouTube channel? Obviously, we're here on Instagram. Tell us where the fans can get. And I was on your website today, too. It actually looks great. Fantastic work.
Oh, thanks.
Tell fans on where they can find out more about you.
So, yeah, I have my Instagram, which is Bhuwan_IFBB Pro. And then my website is bhuwanchauhan.com. And I do have a YouTube channel, which is Bhuwan Chauhan. And I do have my own coaching as well, wherein I do Team Bhuwan and do a lot of lifestyle and competitor coaching. And yeah, that's basically all my social media. That's where I keep myself busy and active. So if you guys are interested in seeing more of my journey and what I do create as content, you can always check those out.
Great. Listen, thanks so much for taking the time here. We obviously covered a lot, and I'm really glad that we were able to fit this in. We've got New Year's Eve tomorrow, so I'm really thank you for taking the time out. I know how busy you are, And we'll definitely put your handles down in the video for all the friends who want to follow more about you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thanks so much.